We've invited Lumpur to take a rest, but he'll be back here for the final talk at 5 o'clock. For now, I'll just answer. There's a few questions today. Maybe it'll be of use to everyone to listen. First question is, how do I deal with bodily pain when sitting? Well, as Lumpur was saying earlier, feelings of pain and pleasure are very natural, very ordinary. They arise because of causes. So if you're sitting for a long time, sometimes we squash the nerves in our legs. Maybe we stop the blood flowing properly, so after a while we get some pain. There's other reasons, of course, but that's one example. But following Lumpur's method of practice, we're learning to establish mindful awareness of our experience. So we know, or bring the quality of knowing to the pain, the painful feeling. And we're reflecting that this pain is impermanent. So if you notice you're sitting, you might have a pain comes up, then after a while it goes away again. It changes. Sometimes it comes back again, maybe more painful than before. But if you're being mindfully aware of this feeling, you're seeing it's changing over time, sometimes more intense, sometimes less, sometimes in one very small area, like a pinprick, sometimes spreading out over a large area. But change is going on. That's one way to investigate the pain. You establish awareness of the feeling and you notice and observe it. You can also ask questions. Does this pain belong to anybody? Is it really me or mine, myself? Because when we're truly mindful, and we're seeing the three characteristics, we'll be able to have that sense of separation or detachment between the mind that knows and the feeling. And they're two different things. So when mindfulness is strong, maybe you can be aware of pain, but you don't have to react to it. You don't have to say in your mind, I don't like this pain, I don't want this pain. You just know the feeling as a feeling, just as you could do with pleasant feeling. Say maybe before you eat food you're hungry, so you have an unpleasant feeling in your stomach. Then you eat food, pleasure arises. But if you're keeping your mindfulness going, you're seeing pleasure arise, pass away, pain arise, pass away. If you're sitting and you reach a point where you can't bear it anymore, you're sitting and it's so painful, you say, I have to get up, go away. Before you get up, ask yourself, or just establish mindfulness and watch that painful feeling. As soon as you get up, gone. Just disintegrates, doesn't it? Just disappears as you get up, change posture. All the suffering in your mind, all the reaction, the thinking, the worrying about it, just disappears. All very impermanent. And what is impermanent is not self, should not be taken as self. So this is a way of looking at experience with mindfulness and wise reflection. Lumpur himself, he's told us sometimes he sat for many days without getting up. If you sit many days without getting up, you'll experience many different kinds of painful feelings. But he maintained mindfulness in his practice. Painful feeling comes up, sometimes in one part of the body, sometimes feels like the whole body is on fire in pain. But he kept sitting mindfully through it, and then sometimes all the pain just disappears, gone. And all that's left is a very peaceful, cool, blissful state. And then he carries on sitting. Maybe all the pain starts to come back again, maybe an hour later or a while later. Maybe twice as bad as before. But if you've seen pain arise and pass away once, well, you have the motivation to keep practicing and maybe see it arise, pass away again. So Luang Por has practiced like that, and this is why he encourages us to practice sitting, walking, being very mindful, not giving in to our moods, our desires, our attachments. Our desires and attachments come up as thinking. So you have a pain and then you think about the pain. Say, all the stories we create in our mind, we say, oh, why do I have to sit meditation? Or why is the Dhamma talk going on so long? Why? We complain in our minds sometimes like little kids. I don't want this pain. Why is meditation so difficult? Why is my body like this? This thinking, this is all coming from the negative reaction to the pain. It's what we call vipawa tanha. It's craving not to have, not to be. We don't want pain, we don't like that feeling, it's unpleasant. So the mind starts to think and think. But if you keep establishing mindfulness, you can watch the pain, you watch your mind. You don't have to get caught up into all that complaining, worrying. You can just watch the pain as a feeling, peacefully, with metta in your mind. So one way to look at pain is to, just like you might look at a person that you don't immediately like in your life. You go to work and there's someone in your office that you don't like. What do? Well, you have to practice metta with that person. If you give in to your anger, then maybe you have a conflict with that person, you have problems, maybe you lose your job or have a difficult time. So you must have metta. With metta we become more patient, more understanding, more sympathetic, develop a good attitude. Maybe you get to know that person and then they turn out to be better than you thought. Maybe they're not somebody you dislike. Maybe you find they're a very nice person once you get to know them. Or at least you find that you can be with them and there's no problem. Because you have metta, goodwill. So when you have pain in your leg, when you're meditating, if you're getting upset, frustrated, angry, bring metta up in your mind. Have goodwill for yourself, and the goodwill will help your mind to calm down and accept that painful feeling. Make friends with it. So there's different approaches. You can bring up mindfulness, bring up metta. You can reflect, pain is not self, pain is impermanent. These are techniques we use until we become more and more familiar with being mindful of pain and seeing pain as pain, feeling as feeling. It's what we call Vedana-nupassana satipatthana. There's something written here, looks like a comment, not a question. It says, peaceful mind, happiness equals suffering. it is nothing. So somebody already seen the Dhamma maybe. This is what Luang Por teaches. When the mind is truly mindful, everything is of equal value. We don't grasp at happiness, we don't grasp at suffering, because we see everything as conditions of mind. Experiences that arise and pass away. They're not self, not to be grasped at as self. So pleasure and pain are of equal value. Like, dislike, want, don't want, all equal. When the mind is seeing conditions in this way, seeing them as just conditions arising, passing away, this is what we say, the empty mind, peaceful mind. Sometimes we have it, sometimes we don't. When you have it, you have equanimity. Like somebody came here once and they had a very good meditation. And they said, oh, after my meditation I went down to the kitchen. Someone was very rude to me, but I didn't suffer. I didn't get upset because my mindfulness was strong, very peaceful. They said, another time came, whatever I did meditating, anyone said the slightest little thing, already very upset, very angry. Mind is like that. Sometimes we have mindfulness, equanimity, sometimes we lose it. So we have to keep practicing. It's a question for Luang Por. Can you please talk a little bit about Prapitta, the Buddha with closed eyes? We'll have to put that to Luang Por later maybe. But very much in line with what he's teaching this morning about practicing Indriya Samvara, practicing composure, mindfulness with our sense bases, our senses. So, being mindful when the eyes see a form. Mindfulness means you know you're seeing, you're aware of the consciousness, and you're aware there's maybe a pleasant form, interesting, beautiful, or you're aware maybe it's unpleasant, ugly, but your mind doesn't grasp at the reaction of liking or disliking to that form. There's seeing and there's knowing, and then the experience passes. But to practice, first of all, we have to practice with mindfulness, and we have to be a little bit careful. So say like monks when they go on Bindabata, and the Buddha said you have to keep your eyes cast down. You look at the ground a few meters ahead of you. So obviously you don't trip over, you know where you're walking. But you don't look around. We actually have a rule that we shouldn't be looking around all over the place. We shouldn't be waving our arms around or talking loudly. Many rules about how we go Bindabata to help bring up composure, mindfulness, as we do something that we do every day. Every day we go Bindabata. But a monk has to walk restrained, in a restrained way with mindfulness, if you follow the Buddha's system of training. So that's a bit like Prapitta. You're limiting the amount of sense contact. If you keep your eyes cast down, you don't see a lot. You see the ground and you see a few things around you. That way your mind can stay mindful easily. You can maintain your samadhi, you can contemplate the Dhamma and see the Dhamma. If you walk along the road looking all over the place, talking a lot, moving around like we usually do, mindfulness is all gone. It all drains away. So that's why we don't hold meditation retreats in the shopping mall. Because to get everybody in the shopping mall to sit like this or walk meditation, very difficult. There's so many things to look at. So we all practice like the Pratpitta, the Buddha with closed eyes. When we come on retreat like this, we're limiting sense contact. So there's not a lot to see, just people and a building, trees. That helps the mind to be more composed. Mindfulness is easier. Maybe when you're expert in your practice, like Lumpur, maybe you can go to a shopping mall. You walk through a shopping mall and you don't become distracted because you maintain your sati, your mindfulness. But you have to practice till you can do that. When you begin, just a little bit of sound, a little bit of movement, already your mind goes and you lose your awareness, you lose your mindfulness. Just as like when we're practicing mindfulness of breathing, we sit. When mindfulness is weak, just one breath in, or straight away your mind's thinking about home, thinking about tomorrow, what you like, you don't like in your life. We have so many things to think about. Maybe just one breath already gone. No strength of mindfulness. So we practice. Breathe in, breathe out regularly. Maybe for a whole hour you might sit there struggling. Every time the mind goes, you have to bring it back. Goes away, bring it back. And if you keep practicing like that, your mindfulness becomes better, stronger, more continuous. Like Ajhan said, in the beginning it's just like drops of water from a tap. Drop, drop. But there's the spaces between the drops, and the spaces is where you become distracted. You hear something, you think of something, and away your mind goes. But if you keep practicing, the drops get faster and faster, and then they join and become one continuous stream of water, like when you open the tap. That's like when mindfulness is continuous in all postures. Throughout your day, you're maintaining your mindfulness as you do maybe many things. Even go out into the world, do things, go here, go there, but you maintain your mindfulness. But in the beginning we have to practice in a way like this. We do retreats, sitting, walking, meditation to build up our mindfulness. Once mindfulness is strong, then you can see the world and you know the world. You don't have to close your eyes from the world. You can look at the world and you know the way of the world. You know everything is impermanent. Everything is suffering if you attach to it. Everything is not self, not to be taken as self. So somebody who's well practiced, they can go out in the world and it doesn't distract them, doesn't bother them. So at school, my son's friends who are Christians say that if he is not Christian, he will go to hell when he dies. How should we teach and guide our children to be tolerant and to be strong in the Buddhist path? Well, as Lumpur was teaching earlier, we live in the world, there's many kinds of people, many views, many beliefs, many different characters of people around. So we have to learn how to live in the world with metta, kindness, goodwill, tolerance. And then we establish mindfulness and we wisely reflect on what people say. And some things they say are true, some are not true. If we have a heart of metta, we can live with everybody. I was brought up Christian, so I have lots of Christian friends, relatives. Doesn't seem to be a problem. The words of the Buddha are so clear and so true that for me, it's very easy to follow the Buddhist path, because the Buddha is very wise and helps us to understand how to live in the world in a better way and be happier in ourselves. Once you experience that, then you don't have any doubts. Even if somebody else comes along and tells you, oh, when you die you'll go to hell. But if you're living in a way that you know you're peaceful and happy, their words don't have much meaning, do they? You can see their words are coming from their belief, but they're not coming from the truth. We have many beliefs, but some things we believe are not true. Heaven and hell really come from our own heart. We know what it's like to fall into hell when we get very angry, very jealous, very upset. It's like we fall into hell. When we're completely lost in our suffering, it's like someone in hell, and we feel like there's no way out. When we do good things, we feel happy. You offer dana, it makes you feel happy. When you keep the precepts, you don't harm anybody, you live in a good way, you feel happy. This is the happiness of heaven. When you meditate and you let go of all your worries, your anger, you make your mind peaceful, it's like you're in heaven. So heaven and hell arise here in your heart. You don't have to wait for the words of other people to decide whether you'll go to heaven or hell. You have to look at your own mind every day. There are many good Christians and people in other religions who do good, and we can be happy with that, give them our anumodana. But also we have to accept some people maybe have strong beliefs which are not correct yet. But we can look at ourselves, like maybe in the past we also had strange beliefs. Maybe we change over time. Some people, when they start practicing Buddhism, they think all you need to do is come in and you bow and you pray to Buddha and everything will come to you. That's not how it happens. So maybe they change their belief and say, oh really, I have to make the good karma practice for myself, then good things will happen. We all start with wrong views, wrong beliefs when we start practicing, so we can have compassion for other people who have different beliefs, different views. In the old days, everybody in the world thought the world was flat. And then the Buddha came along and said, actually the world is round. It's like a little fruit. They have a fruit in Thailand called makampom, like a little round gooseberry. And the Buddha said, do you know the world is round like this? But in those days there's no science, there's no machines to show us this, there's no rockets. So most people still didn't believe it. The Buddha said the world is round. Most people still believe it's flat. They said if you go into a boat and you keep sailing, you'll drop off the edge. Only about 1,500 years after the Buddha, or maybe even longer, then some people in Europe started to study and think about it, and they realized, the world is round. But the Buddha already knew 2,500 years ago. Now everybody in the world, more or less, thinks the world is round. And if you say, no, it's flat, everyone thinks you're crazy. Our views, our beliefs can change. So if someone has different views to us, we can respect them and have compassion for them. We can tell them what we understand is right. If they don't agree, that's fine. You can let them go, let them be. Maybe you find something you can agree on. Like most religions can agree when you practice kindness, it's good. You share things with other people, it's good. You help people who are in need of help, those who are sick, the poor, this is good. Most religions agree on that, so maybe you can talk about that. The part that you can't agree on, maybe you have to wait until a different time. There's one time some nuns, Christian nuns, came to see Ajahn Chah, and they sat down. They'd been brought by their friends who were Buddhists, and they all wear hats. And in the temple, everyone's supposed to take their hat off to listen to a Dhamma talk. Ajahn Chah, normally very strict. We're not allowed to teach somebody wearing a hat. But in this case, he had compassion. He knew they had a different belief from him. So he didn't force them to take their hats off, so they kept their hats on. They knew they were breaking the rules, but Ajahn Chah didn't force them. So they listened to the talk with their hats on. And Ajahn Chah talked about making merit by practicing dana, giving, sharing. Talked about making merit through keeping precepts, living in a peaceful way. Talked about making merit through meditation, learning to practice mindfulness, make your mind calm, peaceful, and then to see the truth, to see that everything is impermanent. He taught them 3 days in a row. Every evening they came and listened to his talk. By the end of the 3rd day, the nuns, they took their hats off. And they actually put their hands in Anjali, and they were crying. And they said, "Oh, you're speaking the truth. We have to respect the truth. You don't have to call it Buddhism or Christianity, Dhamma, God." They said the truth is the truth, and they couldn't argue with Ajahn Chah. They knew he was speaking the truth. So they showed respect and they took their hats off. So if you're practicing the Buddhist path, sooner or later I think most people will start to realize, oh, you're practicing something that is good. Because in Buddhism we don't teach to harm others, or to cause conflict, or exploit other people. We teach to be caring, have compassion, and use mindfulness, use wisdom to solve problems in a peaceful way. So if you follow the Buddhist path, I think there'll be no problem. I'll answer in Thai first. ก็ตามที่หลวงพ่อสอนวันนี้ก็ให้รู้จักพอในชีวิตผู้ที่สงบแล้วเห็นสัจธรรมแล้วก็ละความโลภโกรธหลงเพราะว่าเห็นสิ่งเหล่านี้มีโทษต่อจิตใจต่อความสงบของเราก็เลยทำงานได้แต่ว่ามีจิตว่างไม่ทำตามอำนาจความโลภหรือความโกรธก็เลยเราต้องพิจารณาเองว่าเราทำงานเราสับระดับไหนความมีพร้อมด้วยทรัพย์สมบัติต้องมีในระดับไหนถึงว่าจึงจะรู้สึกว่าพอสำหรับเราหรือครอบครัวของเราถ้าเรามุ่งแต่สร้างทรัพย์สมบัติอย่างเดียวหาเงินทองอย่างเดียวก็จะไม่มีเวลาปฏิบัติธรรมจิตใจคงจะไม่สงบเท่าไหร่เพราะไม่ได้สร้างคุณงามความดีพระพุทธเจ้าก็ไม่ได้แนะนำอย่างนั้นท่านก็แนะนำให้เราสร้างตัวขึ้นมารับผิดชอบครอบครัวรับผิดชอบตัวเองให้พอมีกินมีอยู่แต่ว่าให้แบ่งเวลาปฏิบัติธรรมด้วยในขณะที่ทำงานก็พยายามทำสัมมาอาชีพด้วยรักษาศีลด้วยเจริญสติด้วยถ้าเรามุ่งแต่สร้างทรัพย์สมบัติขึ้นมาหาวัตถุอย่างเดียวก็คงจะหลงคงจะห่างจากธรรมะเลยสังเกตนักปฏิบัติถึงจะมีทรัพย์มากมีทรัพย์น้อยก็จะแบ่งเวลาอย่างนี้แล้วก็ความเห็นก็จะรู้ทรัพย์สมบัติในที่สุดก็เอาไปไม่ได้เราก็สร้างขึ้นมาแต่ว่าเราต้องรู้จักการทำทานให้ทานช่วยเหลือครอบครัวช่วยเหลือสังคมช่วยเหลือวัดนอกจากนั้นก็หาเวลาปฏิบัติตัวเอง Question was about, if I understand correctly, how much is enough when we're talking about building up wealth in the world. We earn money, earn wealth. What's the right amount? If we keep looking for more wealth, well, will it be a cause for disturbance in our mind and stress and suffering? So as Luang Por was teaching this morning, yes, of course, it will be a cause of stress and suffering if you're endlessly looking for more wealth. Because there'll always be more wealth to find, to make in this world. There's no end to it. And you'll spend all your time looking just for more money, more wealth. And you won't have any time to practice the Dhamma. The Buddha said we should look after ourselves, our families, and we shouldn't just give up on the world. If we're in that situation where we're a lay person, then we maybe have to go out to work to earn money. That's not wrong. But the attitude that lies behind it, we have to keep practicing, find time to meditate, contemplate the teachings, apply mindfulness, and we'll see this wealth that we're making is still impermanent. It's not going to bring us true happiness, and it brings us a lot of stress. Earning money is stressful, brings us into competition with other people, and it makes the mind caught up, brings up greed, competitiveness, jealousy, rivalry. There's a lot of dangers associated with it. So try to balance your life. You earn money, but then also find time for the Dhamma. And the money that you earn, don't see it as an end in itself. It's something that provides you with convenience. But then you have to also share some of your money with those who are in need, the poor, the sick, look after your family, support the religion. Because the ultimate happiness is not in wealth creation, or not external wealth creation, it's in internal wealth creation, developing the path of practice. So the letter for Luang Por. Many thanks for visiting us here in Melbourne and Sri Lanka. May you have a long life. Some days I wake up with good moods, then followed by good things. Sometimes, some days, wake up with bad moods, followed by bad things. Question: how do I separate body from mind? From mind-created moods and stay in my object. Practice mindfulness, as Luang Por has been teaching. Sati. Sati, the more sati we have, the more we have this quality of the knowing, puru, the knower. Then we can start to separate the mind from its moods. How do I energize myself with happiness and equanimity all the time until I reach Nibbana? Keep trying, keep doing it, don't give up. That's what practice is. Keep bringing up mindfulness, which brings equanimity, and this brings us the true peace, the true happiness. Keep asking yourself, when you lose your mindfulness, what happens in your mind? When we lose our awareness, we start to suffer. We become caught into our moods. We get attached, we get stressed, life becomes difficult. So that's your motivation. You keep reflecting back, must develop more mindfulness, and keep practicing, keep working at it. Everything else is impermanent, doesn't last. I have heard enough Dhamma and met many teachers, some who practice, but do not still have the urge to attain Nibbana. How do I start it right now and hold on to it till I finish the job? I guess you have to look at the alternative. Maybe if you stop practicing, then it'll be like what the Christians suggest, end up falling into hell. Nibbana is the highest happiness. We have what we call a little nibbana, and then we have true nibbana. But a little nibbana is what Luang Por Buddhadasa used to talk about. When you let go a little bit, say you have some stress in your mind, but then you establish mindfulness. You can see these thoughts, they're causing me stress, I must let go of them. And you let go in that moment. You could say that's not real nibbana, but it's a little nibbana. You let go and you feel relief because you've let go of that suffering at that moment. Maybe you're worried, or you're angry, or you're afraid. You see it because you become mindful, and then you let go. It's what we call a little nibbana, a small nibbana. We can all do that. And you do that more and more often, you get better at it. You become familiar with letting go of attachments which cause suffering. You see them more clearly. Your mind becomes more peaceful more easily. So if you keep practicing, you'll reach Nibbana all by yourself. Just keep doing that practice and it will gain its own energy. Please explain when you separate mind and body, you see layers of attachment in your mind, how to control these attachments. It's very true, when we practice, it's like you're uncovering something that's been buried in your mind. So you start from the outside layers first. So the attachments you see and let go of first are the most obvious ones, the coarse ones. So maybe it's just your own thought, like somebody invites you, say, come and sit meditation, come to a retreat. Maybe the first time you hear that, you're already saying, no, I couldn't do a retreat. Too painful sitting on the ground, and too boring, and no, I couldn't do that. That's an attachment. But then later on you think, maybe I'll give it a go. So you set aside that attachment and you go and do a meditation retreat. Maybe as you do the retreat you feel more peaceful, more relaxed, you start to understand yourself better. That attachment maybe completely goes from your mind now. You never have to doubt again about whether it's worth meditating or not. You know it's good. That's one example. All the time in life we are coming in contact with our attachments, and it's the obvious ones which we meet first. But then you might start to let go of those obvious ones. You start practicing dana, keeping precepts, learning to meditate. Then you find inside, there's still some deeply held attachment. Maybe you're doing some meditation, already you feel quite peaceful, but then somebody comes along and tells you, oh, you know that person, they meditate better than you do. New attachment, it's not really a new one, it's there all the time, but now you're seeing it for the first time. Sense of self comes up, even to do with meditation, more attachment comes up. Or maybe you meditate and you start to feel very peaceful, but then when you finish your meditation you go away, after a while the peace is gone, and you're always thinking, when can I get this peace back again? And we get very frustrated. We want that peace, the same peace we had before, and we can't get it back. An attachment. Maybe that's a subtle attachment, one that you didn't have before. Obviously, if you never practice meditation, you won't have that attachment. But someone who started meditation, maybe that will come up. So attachments start to show themselves the more we practice. Maybe we didn't notice our attachments before. We thought, I don't have any attachments, I don't need to do mindfulness practice. Then you start being mindful and you realize, I'm attached to everything. Attached to my body, the way I look, the way I feel, attached to my family, my place, my money, attached to all kinds of ideas, my opinions and views on things. As you meditate, you start to see more and more attachments. Sometimes you feel overwhelmed and you think, oh, so many attachments, there's just nothing I can do, too many. But if you keep practicing, you only have to work with the attachment that comes up in front of you right now. Something that monks find is when you're a lay person, maybe, say like myself, hardly ever eat chocolate. Then you become a monk and they say, oh, you're allowed to eat plain dark chocolate in the evening. So new monks, they often find suddenly they have this attachment for chocolate. Why? Because we're not allowed to eat in the evenings, but this is the one thing you can eat. So, becomes more interesting, more important. Attachments are like that. Sometimes they're hidden, sometimes they change, sometimes they come up out of nowhere. And you think, oh, I never used to have this attachment, now I do. So you always have to be on your guard and keep practicing mindfulness, because you never know what attachments might come up. Some of them are very obvious, some of them very subtle. We can't even see. Maybe other people can see, we can't see. You just have to keep looking, keep becoming more aware, and then you start to find out about what attachment is and how it creates suffering for you. Dear Ajhan, how to face the competition in the living world? Well, Luang encouraged us to practice metta in all situations. So living in the world, whether it's at home, work, in the temple, because of our attachments, we do get caught into competing with each other. We compete on every level. Compete on the way we look, physically, the way we dress. We compete on things that we identify with. So we compete on our country. You're from this country, whatever country. Say my country is a good place, the best. We compete with the religion. We say, oh, my religion's better than yours. You don't follow my religion, you'll go to hell. We compete, obviously, money, wealth, where we live, all kinds of things because of our attachments. We attach to this body and this mind as self. We don't see through the attachment. All the things we attach to are actually impermanent and not self. But we don't see, so we keep doing it. But if you keep looking, you start to see, oh, that's suffering, isn't it? If you attach to all these things, it's suffering. So competition is suffering. Competing in this world. There's so many people in the world. If you're going to compete with everyone, you'll get very tired, and you'll never get anywhere in terms of your meditation. You won't have time because you'll be competing with everyone. You can't own this whole world because there's so many people. You can't own the things of this world and hold on to them. There'll always be someone else coming along trying to take it away or steal it or compete with you for it. So the Buddha said that's not the way to happiness, competing for the things of this world. The way to happiness is seeing the true nature of this world is impermanent. It's dukkha, it's not self. The only place you have to compete is with your own attachment. As Luang Por said, you have to learn how to go against the flow, go against the stream of your attachment. This is very hard because we usually don't do that. Usually we follow our attachments and our desires. We do what we want, we say what we want, and often that leads us into conflict with other people. We compete with others. But when we practice the Dhamma, we're only competing with kilesa, with greed, anger and delusion. So if you see greed come up, you use the Dhamma to say, oh, I'm not going to give in to this greed. I'm going to let it go, I'm going to overcome it. or you get anger come up. And the Buddha said, oh, if you're angry, the only way to end this anger or overcome it is with your own loving kindness, mindfulness, and then metta. You can't overcome anger with anger. It has to be overcome with non-anger. So the way we practice Dhamma is always overcoming the greed, the anger, the delusion, the attachments, using mindfulness, wisdom, and all the good qualities we develop. That's the real place to compete. We don't have to compete with other people. When we practice Dhamma, we start to see other people, like Luang says, we're all related in birth, old age, sickness and death. There's no one sitting here who isn't going to get old, isn't going to die. We all have that in common. Man, woman, young, old, whatever place you were born, whatever your beliefs, you're Christian, you're a Buddhist, doesn't matter. You all get old, get sick and will die. So when you see that, you don't have to compete with anyone. We don't compete with each other to see who gets old first or who gets sick first or who dies first. Nobody competes on that level. It's stupid. You just have to know it. Oh, it's true. Everyone gets old, gets sick and dies. So we can be friends in that way. The Dhamma is there for everyone. The truth applies to everyone. So the more you practice Dhamma, the more it takes away that sense of competing with other people. It brings up metta, compassion, but it does lead you to compete with your own kilesa, your own defilements. Please explain when you are meditating, how do you separate mind and body? Well, briefly, this practice of mindfulness, you're learning to bring up the quality of knowing. So we train that using meditation techniques. Mindfulness of breathing. We bring attention to the breath, maybe at the tip of the nostrils here, or the abdomen rising, falling. Or you recite a word, Buddho, Buddho, Buddho. You put mindfulness on an object and you keep doing that. So if you're with the breath, when you become better at keeping your attention with the breath, then you know where your mind is. It's with this breath here, the feeling. So your mind becomes in one place and it becomes quiet because you're letting go of all the thoughts and distractions, everything else. Then you start to see that there's the mind, this quality of knowing that you've trained and brought up in the mind. And then there's the thing that you know. In this case, it's the breath. The breath is part of the body, it's part of the physical world. You have mind and body. You have the knowing, and then you have the body, the thing that is known. And because the mind is clear, peaceful and still, you start to see they're different things. That's also why you can be mindful of feeling. Feeling is a mental thing, but feeling is only one part of our mental experience. It's not the whole part. When we're suffering, then it seems like, say, a painful feeling just fills the mind. It seems like it's everything. That's all we know. But if you have mindfulness, you have a sense of separation, and you see there's painful feeling, but then there's the mind that's knowing it, looking at it, but not the same thing. So the more mindfulness we have, the more we can separate between mind and experience. So mind and body, mind and feeling. Even the mind can know the mind itself, which on paper sounds difficult. They always ask the question, how can the mind know itself? You're training in a quality of reflective awareness, like a mirror looking back at itself. We can know objects of mind, wholesome, unwholesome, thoughts, views, moods. Everything can be known, and as the mindfulness improves, then there's a separation between the knower, the quality that's brought up through mindfulness practice, and then the thing that is known, the body or the feeling. becomes clearer and clearer. And when you can see that separation, you can see, well, body is not a person, isn't it? A body doesn't know anything. We always say, my body, this is me, and we have this sense of the mind and the body all being one thing. But as you practice mindfulness, you become more aware that body is something, it exists, but it's immaterial, it's without consciousness, it's without, it's not a being, a person, it's just the 4 elements, the 32 parts come together. You cut your fingernails or you cut your hair off, you look at the hair or the fingernail, that doesn't know anything, does it? You can know the body, but the thing that knows it is the mind. That awareness becomes more and more refined till the mind is knowing the body and knowing it as impermanent, as not self. So it's 1 o'clock, probably enough talking for now. You can now have a period, I believe, is it 45 minutes of walking? I think 45 minutes of walking meditation. And then back in here for some sitting. So if you want to stretch your legs, find a spot outside to do some walking, or you can carry on sitting.